Come on.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the only podcast produced by three two-time winners of IMSA's Spirit of the Race Award. You're tuned into the Check Engine podcast. We're hosted on Anchor.fm and streamed worldwide on all of your favorite streaming platforms. Nick here, Andrew and Tristan also here. What's going on, fellas?
Oh, nothing. I'm recording from the plush comfort of our finished studio.
Yeah! When can we actually go record in it in person?
I don't know. It depends when you get vaxxed, man.
Is that all we're waiting on?
Yeah, pretty much at this point.
I'm vaxxed and waxed and ready to go.
You're waxed.
Wait, sorry. That second part's not important.
That is not necessary, but I do appreciate it.
So we just got our episode title within the first minute. I think that's a new record. Vaxxed and waxed and ready to go.
Vaxxed, waxed, and ready to go.
Oh, yeah. No. It's here. We have furniture. We have a floor. We have a TV that we actually had to go out and buy because I broke the other one. And
well done, sir.
Oops. Thank you. And I mean, yeah, it's good. It's missing some decorations, but I guess that comes later. I don't really know. I've never decorated a room intended for recording. Like I don't know what to put up in here.
Well, one wall has to be the soundproof foam.
That is going to be this wall, I think.
Yeah,
but the one behind me, as no one can see what I just pointed at. Yeah, no, the one behind me, I think is what they're going to do. That is the probably just the place it's going to go. I think it'll look coolest there. Anyways,
but it's functional. That's the most important thing.
Yes, yeah, we're ready to go.
That is awesome. Big things for the podcast. Well done, Andrew.
Thanks, man. I'm really excited about it. I'm actually quite proud of this finished product.
You should be, man. You should be. So that's some big stuff going on. What else is happening? Tristan, you got anything crazy?
No, nothing crazy. I have returned from being quote unquote on assignment in Mississippi, but that's about it.
Returned the Rio safe and sound to your rental car agency, I'm assuming?
Yep, safe and sound, if not slightly covered in red mud.
What?
I took it places rental cars are not supposed to go.
Where?
Back on a incredibly horrible dirt road into a state recreation area.
Oh, yes, guy was trying to recreate, I see.
Yeah. Turns out mosquito season starts way sooner down there, so I didn't. But hey, I tried.
Huh. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised that that's what you did, but I'm a little.
Yeah, it was taking a Kia Rio where no man has taken a Kia Rio before. Was passed by several pickup trucks, but I was the only car in the whole place, honestly.
Damn,
well,
man,
that part's not surprising given where you were.
Right. That could be, the Walgreens parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so, it was in totally intact, no damage, just slightly muddy.
Andrew,
that's what car washes are for, right?
Andrew, when do we stop being surprised when Tristan says he's gone to a recreation area or state park?
Well, I don't know, because my issue is that I keep thinking, right, that he's going to go somewhere that doesn't have one.
Oh, no. They're secretly everywhere. There's one in the middle of downtown Memphis. There's a state forest that's like in the park that the zoo is in. The park is so big, there's like an actual like protected like state natural area.
Is there like an app that you have for this? Like
Apple Maps. All those things that are green, that's what you're looking for.
No, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, right.
Well, he's curious, so
Well, no, because it just seemed, I don't know. It's a weird thing to have a knack for finding.
yeah, it's the green things with a tree on them. And Apple Maps are everywhere. Surprise.
All right, but those can also be golf courses, whatever.
I don't know, those actually I think look like actual golf courses.
Really?
Don't they have like some kind of golf icon? Whatever.
Man, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Here's
We're
a
not
really
an Apple
important
Maps
issue.
podcast
Yet, but here's
Yes.
two important things. First, you know what we have not done in a while is welcome new listeners.
Oh, we
I
should.
feel like we haven't done that. Welcome new listeners. That's it. Moving on to what's really at issue here. This is a specific summer complaint, and as we're going into the season, it's a problem. I cannot find ice cream bars that have sprinkles on them. And it's driving me insane. Do you guys 90s kids may remember? They were literally just like the popsicle brand or whatever. They were just like vanilla ice cream with the chocolate coating, and they had sprinkles on them, or like nonpareils, the little dots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they never existed. I can't find them anywhere. No one makes them.
It's ice cream Mandela effect.
Exactly that. And no, seriously, look this up. There are Reddit threads dedicated to this, and people are like, I don't remember those.
Uh-oh.
So
Alternate
That's a
universe.
problem.
I'm sure they existed. It just seems like a really simple thing. But no, all you get is the stupid, the strawberry one that it's not even that good. You know what I mean?
Well, if you're not eating drumsticks anyway, what are you doing?
Oh, come on. That's like the basic bitch ice cream.
Okay, that might be a listener poll. Drumstick or ice cream sandwich?
Ice cream sandwich, clearly.
Cookie ice cream sandwich.
Are the Did you say fuck the ice cream sandwich?
No,
No.
he said cookie ice cream
Oh,
sandwich.
cookie ice cream sandwich.
Fuck the ice cream
I don't know not that strongly one way or the other.
But
I thought you
listen,
meant literally.
you actually stole my thunder. I was going to say if the two ends are cookies, then yes, ice cream sandwich. But I do love me a drumstick.
Anyways,
We're
I
also
do-
not an ice cream podcast.
I do have a car thing to talk about, though.
I have a couple of motorsports things to hit on too, but first we should probably let the listeners, new and current, know what is the main theme of tonight's episode. What are we diving into?
So here is the deal. When I was driving my car the other day,
Here's
I-
the deal.
I noticed something curious. I noticed that the speedometer in my car, it's right in the middle of the like controls, which I think is great, but it does something that I've never seen before. It changes interval in how much speed is measured per tick. So from 0 to 40, it's 10s. From 40 to 160, it's in 20s.
But they're
Which
the same
is-
spacing.
Yes, with the exact same spacing.
Non-linear speedometers.
Exactly. However, it's incredibly effective because I'm at this point no longer ever going more than 5 to 7 miles an hour over what I think I'm driving. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it actually works marvelously well. I don't know why, whether it's a mental thing or just chance, or now that I've noticed, I'm paying attention. But that got me thinking. All right, we've talked about cars infinitely in different variations at this point, right? Like best this, worst that, blah blah blah. But what if you took everything out of the equation and only focused on the cockpit area, the wheel, the gauges, the stuff that you interact with? What is the best car solely based on that? What is the best cockpit in the game ever made? What is it that you like about that? And then kind of extrapolate from there. What is the ideal? Because I think we would all probably make the argument on face value that you obviously want your car to look as much like a fighter jet as possible.
Yes, but what I've noticed in usually the cars that are the closest to the fighter jet are also the closest in price to a fighter jet.
Well, clearly, I mean, there's got to be some give and take.
So I haven't had a ton of opportunity to see or sit in those up close, but the couple I have had the privilege of sitting in, they actually weren't that comfortable.
Well, I mean, that's an issue too. Yeah.
So I think aesthetically, yeah, that's really dope. But are you taking actually sitting in the seat and comfort as part of your best cockpit, or is it just specifically on how it looks?
I didn't take sitting because I'm never going to sit in 30 Lamborghinis. even if I've been in one, it's never going to be all of them. However, we'll get to the Lamborghini thing later. Anyways, for me, comfort not really an issue because you got to assume, again, anything that does look like a fighter jet probably isn't going to be that comfortable, and anything that looks like a boat probably is, but that's not where you want to be in the first place.
I mean, I got no problems with boats.
Boat guy over here.
Yeah.
Shipman and boat boy.
Oh my god. It's the shittest superhero ever.
The shittest.
Yeah.
So that's what we're getting into later.
We talk about cockpits, but first,
what do you got?
An important development, a very important development in the Ford Focus Pro saga. Now, those of you who listened all the way, anyone who listened to the end of the episode last week will know that I told Nick about a mystery, the mystery of the two guys in Ford Focus STs that were going to Subway like every day and like backing into the two stalls right in front of it almost every day. Clearly they're listeners because since then, I've only seen them one time. So is the bromance over? Did they start taking just one car? Because we've seen one or both cars, but never them both together. Clearly they're listening. Clearly they know we're about to invade them. But I still don't know what they're doing.
Or maybe just because they got made. You found him out. They decided to stop doing whatever
they caught us.
We got to find a new Subway.
But I just need to know if they were eating Subway that much.
Well, you said they weren't working there because the cars weren't there long enough.
Correct. Yeah. They were not there shift length.
So what if it's a lunch break thing?
At varying times of the day?
What if they work somewhere close? Retail or whatever else, and...
But then theoretically it would have to be two people with different retail jobs who have different lunch breaks, but at the same time of the day, because it was two cars meeting at the Subway or at least parking there. I don't know.
My vote.
Are you calling me in to go try to infiltrate this?
Well, now that they know that we know that they're switching up the plan. Now we have to see how they react to this. Oh, I see. They're being coy.
Start with other Subways.
No lie, there's 4 right around my house.
Plenty of options then.
Okay, all right. Well, developing story. I'll keep everyone posted.
Cool. Tristan, you got anything?
Not really, other than the continued observations of things in southern Tennessee and northern Mississippi. I have never seen as many Dodge Challengers.
There's a lot up here
in my life.
Up here,
like it's remarkable. Like I know there are a lot up here, but it's like you drive for any length of time, and you will see one not only frequently, just like at regular intervals. And it's everything from demons to like the V6 ones. It's just, if there is a Challenger, they're going to buy it. And it's weird.
it's weird and I don't like it.
It's just, yeah. It's like in Grand Theft Auto when you jack a car and then the computer is like, to make this easier, I'm only going to load one car skin in different colors, and that's all you see. If I wouldn't have been surprised to lean my head out of my car and find that my Kia Rio was actually a Challenger, because that's the computer decided it was tired of choosing different car types because it was just everywhere, and it was a little unbelievable.
Are they made around there or something?
I have no idea. but they're everywhere.
That's so weird. Like, I guess I don't know the socioeconomics completely of that area, but it's like, I feel like you would see way more of the V6s or the stock ones down there, because I don't know if average income is that high where you were, like, for people to be putting out for demons.
I did only see one of those.
Okay.
But I did see it. But as we discussed in our flagships episode, a whole hell of a lot of Hellcats. They had Hellcat engined Challengers like crazy. And they were making fun of the Scat Pack ones.
Making fun? Why?
How?
Like one
Why
guy
and
had
how? Answer both those questions.
Like one guy had, NTASCAT, not a scat, on his license plate, and like one of them had like on a sticker in the rear window, like Scat Pack my ass, and like the Hellcat Challengers hate the Scat Pack Challenger guys.
What?
Apparently.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a developing story too alongside our Focus Bros.
Clearly.
Why is there an internal division in the Hellcat in the Hellcat fires?
Okay, so the Scat Pack is what was called the old Hemi engine, right? The supercharged 6.2.
I don't think so. So the
this fucking website.
no, it's
okay. So that's the RT. Technically,
yeah. So it's just a package. So, like, from my understanding, like, it literally, like, when they say Scat Pack, it's just a package, and
yeah, RT.
I think that's where they like draw the line, is like your Scat Pack, like, people like, oh, it's special, and it's like, no, my Hellcat is actually special. Which,
okay, wait, yeah, no, I got you, bro. All right, so the regular V8 non-Scat Pack has the 5.7 liter Hemi V8. The Scat Pack jumps up to a 392 Hemi V8, and then you get the supercharged in the Hellcat.
right. So it's the Hellcat and the Scat Pack are both 392s, but the Hellcat is the supercharged one.
Yes.
Supercharged 392.
Which would have been the SRT before.
Right. Yep. So it's like, basically the haha, you don't have a supercharger is kind of the gist of it.
I was gonna say, they're just shitting on someone who didn't spend as much money as they did.
Yep. It's like we've seen internal divisions inside a brand, like WRX people and BRZ people. But
but that's just, I feel like that's just corny, like, kid shit. I never thought that was real.
Well, I mean, look who buys both of them.
I know. But I'm just saying, yeah.
It's real, and to such an extent that even though I never really thought of myself that way. I was talking about cars I had owned when I was on this trip, because, like, I was making comments about cars we were seeing cruising past Beale Street, and like, oh, you seem to know a lot. I was like, yeah, I've got a car podcast, and I like cars. And oh, what'd you own? And I said I had a WRX, and the guy's like, oh. And I was like, what? And he goes, oh, and he goes, oh, I've got a BRZ. And I was like, oh. And I was like, whoa, what? Where'd that feeling come from? So maybe it was just maybe it was just because he went, oh, first. I don't know.
That's nonsense. That's what you're talking nonsense.
It's real. It's real.
Okay. Oh, all right. I don't know. I've never known you to have. I think you were just matching his energy. I think that's what happened. I've never known you to have animosity about
it's
BRZs before.
Not a real Subaru, so it's like being mad at the adopted kid.
Wow. Ouch. Sad.
No, that's a joke. But
no, I would never be mad at adopted kids.
But yeah, it's like, it's not really a Subaru, it's a Toyota. We all know this.
Yeah.
Just like the Supra. It's
Okay,
it's just
just
a
like
BMW.
just like a
Okay.
BMW.
Now that you bring that one up, I understand what you're saying. That I get. It makes sense.
Next, they're going to start saying that the Supra is a Subaru.
Who's going to start
Listen.
saying that?
I don't know. It's the Wild West out there now.
Just don't rule it out. Just don't rule it out.
We're just saying, keep an open mind.
That's right.
That's all. All right, so I've got a few things to touch on right quick once. Number one, some neat car news. I don't have a ton to say about it because I literally caught it almost over my shoulder, just passing in the other direction through an intersection. An Aston Martin DBS was on the road in New Berlin, black one. So that was cool. That's all I can tell you about it because I saw it for literally a second. So there is one of those around. On the motorsports side of things, a few things I want to hit on. Number one, real quick story. It just got announced. Toyota and Gazoo Racing are entering the TCR game. Starting in, my guess is going to be 2023. They might have said when they're going to actually start racing it, but I don't know unless they've probably already been developing it, but I don't know if they can have it ready in time for next year. But they're going to run the Corolla in TCR around the world. So that includes Michelin Pilot Challenge here in the United States.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, let's speculate wildly about whether or not that means we're actually getting a GR Corolla.
I'm not familiar with the regulations for IMSA stuff where like the car you race has to be a car you sell in that country. I don't know if that's a requirement. I know in some series it is.
There's at least partial homologation rules. We know that.
That's why they're not running the i30N. It's the Veloster.
Exactly. And that's why, well, it's also why BHA or Herita Racing pushed so hard for the Elantra.
Yep.
Those were, I mean, they are homologated now, but Hyundai essentially made those for them.
Yes. So yeah, I would hope it means we're getting a GR Corolla. I feel like if they are going to do it, they're going to just send over the bare minimum that is required to be legal to homologate the race car. But
that's fine.
So I think they'll be pretty rare.
Okay, sorry, I you saying that, Nick, made me remember. I was actually just reading the press release from Hyundai about the Elantra TCR because I was curious. Like there is not an Elantra N anywhere. Like it's coming. We know that it's a thing. It's going to be real, but there just isn't one. If you want a fast Elantra, the best you can do is what I have.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked it up and I was reading this. And while they don't outline the homologation requirements, what they say is very roughly, in line with TCR regulations, the Elantra NTCR is front-wheel drive and is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged engine derived from a brand new base engine taken from Hyundai's family of road-going models. There's a way to say, we make that engine, yes. And everything else, I mean, okay, so body, the frame, the interior, it has to be an Elantra. It has to be a Hyundai engine. Everything else, and then you have to match the requirements of paddle shifted gearbox, front wheel drive, blah 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 blah.
Right.
Everything else is parts, essentially.
So as long as the engine is going in your models and it's 2-liter, basically.
No, as long as your engine is made by your brand, it doesn't even have to be in the model.
Got it.
Huh.
Which is why that's weird. That's worded so weirdly. In line with the TCR regulations, the Elantra N TCR is front wheel drive and is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged engine derived from a brand new base engine taken from Hyundai's family of road-going models.
Got it. Yeah, okay.
That stuck in my head. I was like, what the fuck? What are you saying?
So by you saying that, I'm going to change my speculation and say we're not going to get a GR Corolla.
Yeah, you're right.
But
that sucks.
Yeah, that sucks for the road going counterparts, but it is it's good news for the TCR category to get another manufacturer in there.
More brands always good.
More brands always good. I mean, right now it's half the field is Hyundai now, so I don't know if any of them are going to switch over, or if it actually means new teams coming in. That's yet to be seen. But
I think some will switch, honestly.
I think some will switch too, especially the ones who are now running the Velosters.
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously Hyundai's going to push the Elantra now, so the support for the Veloster is going to slowly wean out.
Yep, absolutely.
So I think there's some teams who are going to take that opportunity and jump ship, but we'll see. That's one thing I wanted to let you know. I knew that would interest you in particular, Andrew, that there's something new on the TCR horizon.
You know that.
Another thing I want to talk to you guys about is Formula One is trying to spice up their show, so they came out with a new tweak to a few of their race weekends that absolutely does not spice up the show at all. So the idea has been
Arrested Development narrator. It did not.
It didn't.
In this case, future tense, it won't.
But it won't. Extremely Ron Howard voice.
So the idea here is actually kind of a good one when it was initially talked about. And Formula One has been floating around the idea of a sprint race on a race weekend to set the grid for the main Grand Prix on a Sunday. The initial idea is that the sprint race is you grid for the sprint race in inverted order from owner points. Essentially, Mercedes would start on the back row, and it's a 100-kilometer sprint race. They make up as many positions as they can, and wherever you finish the sprint race is where you start the Sunday race. I think that would be pretty cool to have the bigger teams coming from the back. The idea is to try to help the lesser fun, the Williams or the Haas of the world, right? So, excuse me. So, F1 said, okay, we're going to try sprint qualifying at 3 races in 2021. They just announced this in the past week or so. They haven't locked in which 3 races they will be. Early reports suggest Silverstone, so the British Grand Prix, and Brazil are 2 of the 3, but they haven't confirmed which dates there will be. But here's the deal. They're doing the sprint race, but they're having a regular qualifying session to set the grid for the sprint race. So,
but are they then doing that in reverse?
Nope. So what's going to happen is Mercedes and Red Bull are going to qualify 1, 2, 3, 4. They're going to finish 1, 2, 3, 4, and then start the Sunday race.
And they're going to race 1, 2, 3, 4. Like they would have in qualifying regularly.
I mean,
it's literally so. Maybe what they're banking on is like, hey, in a race, somebody messes up a start. Maybe there's contact. They got to make an extra pit stop and get a new wing or something like. But in essence, and they added if you win the podium for the sprint races, get 3, 2, and 1 extra championship point. So really, what you're doing is giving Mercedes and Red Bull a chance to earn more points and spread themselves out further from the rest of the grid than they already are. Like, where is the logic in this? I don't get it.
So here's my problem, right? F1. I'm not a fan of F1. For any first-time listeners, I'm not a fan of F1 because they have a driver who has been historically dominant for a decade. Mm-hmm. And A, they can't really market him. Stupid. And B, there's no excitement. Now, this year, finally, out of all the years, granted, we're only three races into the season.
3 races in now.
And as I forget what the results were of the last one, but as of, going into week 3, Hamilton had only won 50% of the races as opposed to his normal 100%. And
Hot takes.
Yeah,
He's
right.
washed.
Yeah, my God, they're coming. Anyways, there seems like, to me, and again, I don't really watch F1, there's like the hints that there could be a challenge. There could actually be 2 teams running at the top of F1. There could be back and forth. There could be lost qualifyings. There could be a wide turn resulting in, an unexpected fall off the podium for any one of the top drivers. There's something there. Don't fuck with it now. You missed your chance. You had so much time to do this before, and now it feels like there's something that's going to happen for the first time in a long time. Don't do this now.
Yeah, you're right. And from what I've seen in the first 3 race weekends, Red Bull, specifically Verstappen, is right on him.
Absolutely.
Like,
he looks amazing.
He out-qualified him on merit. Was it Bahrain or Imola? He started on pole, like just legit straight up out-qualified the Mercedes.
It was Imola, I'm pretty sure.
And went on to win that race. Like, on merit. Neither Mercedes could keep up with him.
Not a technicality.
Not a technicality. Lewis did go off wide in that race, Andrew, which was, part car and just part how just sublime of a driver he is. He goes off into the gravel, falls back to 9th or 10th, last car in the lead lap, and in a sport with notoriously low amounts of passes, still ends up carving his way through the field to finish second in the last third of the race.
It was super impressive.
It was so crazy. But you're right. And then here's another thing. Next year, this all might get shaken up anyway because the cars are completely new.
Exactly.
There's a cost cap. There's a new size tire and wheel, which is going to affect it. They're taking away downforce. There's all this other stuff. Teams have already said, we're not putting a dime more into our 2021 car because it's not going to matter. So why not wait until you see how this stuff shakes out next year? Like,
or just do it all at once. Yes, new car.
Start in 2022.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? Hey, also here's all your new race types.
Format. Yeah, here's your race format.
Whatever it is, do it all at once. Not, I don't know. Maybe this is a case of a non-fan, me specifically, just making demands of a company that can't ever do right because they just keep doing wrong. But it feels like, I don't know. There's intrigue. There's something's happening. It's like there's a groundswell of excitement about Verstappen, who has been looking great and already created one of, a really memorable race end, capitalizing on a mistake by Hamilton, which is not a guarantee. But instead, all you see is people complaining about how Hamilton got out of the trap. And it's like, all right, I know. I just wish they would stop doing things at the wrong time.
Yep. And if you're going to do it, make sure it's actually going to accomplish what the original objective was.
That would be nice.
We want to help the small teams. So let's give them an extra...
giving extra points to the big teams.
Give them an extra session to prove how slow they are, those small teams.
Can't think of a better way, really.
Oh, that's crazy. All right, I know we got to keep moving. There's one really good feel-good story. I just threw this up on Facebook this afternoon. We're recording on a Monday. The quick story says that there is a IMSA scheduled press conference tomorrow as we're recording this on Tuesday. Guys, I don't know if you saw this. Robert Wickens, paralyzed from the IndyCar crash a few years ago, expected to make a return to the cockpit this week and turn his first laps at speed since suffering the injuries to his spinal cord. No additional details have been offered. He's been actively pursuing the chance to resume his driving career with the use of hand controls, looking to open wheel and sports car options. IMSA has scheduled a press conference Tuesday the 4th. We're going to find out more. Robert Wickens is getting back in a goddamn race car. How cool is that?
Man, that crash was...
Yeah, you didn't
probably one of the worst things I've ever seen.
You don't expect someone to live through that, much less return to racing after that.
That is hardcore. That is a hardcore, man.
And if you guys have, if anybody out there, if the listeners have been following this story. I mean, he had that accident, and what was it, 7 months later, he danced with his wife and walked down the aisle at a wedding. Like, that was his first goal. Like, you've been following his story on social media, and he's putting up all these checkpoints for himself. Like, step 1, I need to learn to walk. Step 2, I need to get strong enough where I can walk down the aisle with my wife at our wedding, and like all this stuff. And it's been so inspirational and so cool. He drove a hand-controlled NSX, I think it was, as like a pace car at one of the IndyCar races a year or two ago.
That's right. Yes, he did. Yeah. It was last year, I think.
Maybe it was. And he did, when the pandemic hit, he did the iRacing stuff with hand controls. He was competing with the IndyCar guys there. So he's making these steps and making this progress. And now this just came out literally this afternoon. So 4 hours ago, almost 5 hours ago for when we're recording, that IMSA's having a press conference tomorrow to announce he is returning to a race cockpit at some point.
That's good. That's good news.
How awesome is that? That just absolutely made my day. Made my week, and it's awesome. Only Monday. So good on you, Robert Wickens. We are all pulling for you, and nothing but the best, man. All right, that's all I got. I'm done talking for a while.
All right. Well, let me kick this off here. So, cockpits. We've talked a lot about car interiors in general here. We've talked about my affinity for switches, for a elegantly sculpted aluminum casing over a toggle. That's really important.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought to myself, what if you stripped away everything else from the car and just focused on that sensation, that look, that inviting sense of what you would feel when you see the interior of a car? Something kind of opposite of what you feel when you look at the interior of the C8 and you see that silly row of buttons and you're kind of like, oh, this is weird and I don't want to go in there. So of course, like I said at the beginning, my first impulse was to look at every car that I knew looked the most like a fighter jet. And of course, the first thing I thought of was the Reventon, the Lamborghini Reventon from 1,000 years ago now, which actually had like the fighter jet HUD looking Speedo, right? Like it was a line that like went up the middle of like the angled track kind of thing. It just looked like a fighter jet, but it kind of looks dumb now because after that car, Lamborghini brought out the Aventador, which is like that same thing, but so much better. Every detail of the Aventador screams fighter jet. There's even a big red pop-up lever, which I think is where the track control mode is, I think.
Engine start.
Is that engine start under there?
Engine start under the red flip up.
Yeah, that's the
it's an
the
arming switch.
Yeah, the newer ones have the sport mode under there. But I mean, hefty switches. This thing is just perfect. A nice screen right in front of you that for some reason says N on it. That's a little confusing. Might want to look into that.
They're in neutral.
They're in neutral. No, but that is also very fighter jet-ish. There is also a screen in like the center stack that looks like it's a Pip-Boy, which I'm a huge fan of. And I assume that's like your entertainment stuff. But
and the map.
And the map, yeah. But this thing is probably the coolest cockpit that I've ever seen because of how much it mimics a jet. And I don't know if you can do better on the airplane line than this right here. I mean, nothing else about the car, considering nothing else, this is probably the coolest place that you can be. You can spend your time, I think.
I'm surprised you led with this and not that Spiker.
I like the Spiker a lot. That's my favorite interior of all time. But looking at just that cockpit area, yes, the shifter is amazing, but really that car to me is more about the full nature of the interior. Like everything's quilted, everything matches perfectly, everything's like fit and finished to the T. When you look at the actual cockpit, it's kind of nerdy.
For the Spiker?
Yeah, I think it's kind of nerdy. And also, that car's not real.
It's a requirement to make this list, is that it has to be a car that's actually driven.
I would agree with that. That like it's when you actually look at it, it's all those things that you mentioned, and I think that I don't know if you're willing to let me take my first shot here.
Of course, I was done. Yeah,
is actually very related to the interior of the Spiker C8, right? Is the
C8 Spiker. Yeah.
So related to that, in a very similar fashion, where you've got the, well, it's optional, but the skeletonized shifter where all the linkages are available.
Mhm.
The big round. When you talk about fighter jet, this isn't a fighter jet. It looks like the inside of a warbird, but in a modern way, which is a weird thing to say.
If someone were to resto-mod a P-51.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of. And by the way, folks, obviously this is an audio medium, but we will post photos of all of the interiors we're talking about, so you guys can get an idea. Sorry, go ahead, Tristan.
But I love the inside of the Pagani Zonda, which has a lot of the same elements you're talking about with the Spiker, Andrew. It's got the skeletonized shifter, optionally, quilted leather, but then it has these big round gauges and air vents that then the air vents look like early jet engine cowlings, and the steering wheel is all like streamlinered. And the most interesting thing about the whole cockpit, to me, that includes the seat, is the adjustment for the seat is like right down between your legs.
Yes.
And like that, it's just an interesting play, like keys, a key placement on a Saab in the middle. That it's just a weird thing that the Paganis have, where the adjustment is right in the seat itself, and I like that for whatever reason. But yeah, it's this like ridiculous, over the top, glitz and glamour interior with enough of that same kind of fighter jet mentality. I was trying to find a picture straight on of the center stack.
Well, the big problem with Pagani, of course, is that that car's been around for a long time, and they've iterated it so many times. Like, there are common themes, but these interiors are wildly different.
Right. Yep. And that's, and it's the dashboard specifically seems to be very similar, where actually the instrument cluster and everything else, and like the air vents, that seems to be pretty consistent across a lot of models. And that's the one I like. Like I said, the shifter and a couple other details are different, and as technology updated, the center stack changed. And I think, frankly, as the company got more money, the center stack changed.
Right.
Because it looks like they were pulling from somebody else's plastic parts bin in the early years. But that's one of my favorite aesthetic cockpits. And I've got a couple different things that I qualified as the best cockpit. And like Nick mentioned, is it comfort? Is it aesthetics? Is it other qualifications? And I think it meshed with our discussion of the Spiker, so I want to bring it up first. But obviously haven't ever sat in one. Probably will never sit in one. Can't speak to its comfort or its utility or anything else. So that one was chosen strictly on aesthetics. And I love the inside of the Zonda.
It's a good choice, too. So, to continue on this theme of jet fighter, or legit, like, cockpit, one, to expand on the Lamborghini, Andrew, in addition to everything you said, there's also the opportunity for the wild color. It's not just black, gray, tan. I mean, you can get lime green or some glow-in-the-dark purple, or whatever the hell you want, basically, on the inside, which makes it that much more interesting. For my first, nomination here for you guys, if you want to talk about like a legitimate fighter jet style, if you think about that, there's not a lot of, it's all essentially function in a jet, right? There's no glitz, glamour, and my pick is a little bit dated. It's an older car, but also from the actual position where you sit, what about the McLaren F1? You're sitting.
I'll pull that up.
It's a minimalist interior. It's not very fancy, but you're sitting. You're sitting in the middle of it, much like you would sit in the middle of a. You're not sitting, skewed left or right in a plane, or in a fighter jet. You've got controls on both sides, very big knobs and buttons and dials, analog, like altimeters and everything would be up on the dash. There's no digital. Again, there's not a lot going on inside as far as comforts, but what a cool interior for a car that it's just, you can tell by sitting in it that they care more about how fast the car goes than what's the type of leather that's on your dashboard.
I mean, this is very go-karty. I can definitely see why you like it.
Go-karty.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, it honestly, it feels like, if you just cut away the part in which you're sitting in the car, you could just make a go-kart out of that. Like,
that'd be a hell of a go-kart.
Just like cut that piece out and like set it on some wheels.
Set it on a cart frame.
Yeah, just like it's got the molded, like the seat almost looks molded in, and everything else, and but that definitely that does scream, not movie fighter plane, but actual fighter plane.
Yes, definitely.
And and the one I'm looking at here, kind of straight on, from as if you're sitting in the seat, like a point of view type of thing. You've got on the right side, you've got your shift lever, all these knobs and dials, and there's that big button right next to the shifter that's got like a light up red arrow on it. I just, imagine the guy with the helmet and the mask on, and he's got his joystick in the middle, and he's got all these buttons and knobs on down either side, like down each leg, and it's awesome. You're not a lot of reaching up to the dashboard on the McLaren. You want to stay as close to in and around the wheel as you can with the speeds you're more than likely going to be going.
It is interesting. All right. I'm gonna mix it up and try to follow Nick's lead here and go in another direction. I am interested in 70s and 80s car interiors as well, because in many ways they did their best to predict what literally is about to come in the next generation of cars, if all these designers have their way, where everything is a data screen. But of course it was the 80s, so they didn't have the technology to do that. All they had was CRT, and it was reliable and heavy and shitty. So what they did instead on cars like the Renault 25 is make everything a button or a knob or like an independent readout. It's just kind of it's a loud, somewhat obnoxious, very aggressive look. But I think I actually really like it. There's something very charming about, like you said, Nick, everything being analog. And in this car, it's literally everything is individually analog. It looks like one of those like old fashioned, like the Dwight Schrute watch, right? Like the calculator watch, the Casio.
I just pulled this up. I am into this.
It's bizarre looking. And I think,
that's what makes it cool though.
Yeah.
What is it? The Renault, there was the 19?
25.
25.
The 19 has a very boringly retro look.
boringly retro look.
This one.
This is. Go ahead, Nick.
No, I was just gonna say this is like this is like your typical. It's an '80s car, but it's trying to look futuristic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you would go like this is the car this is the interior that looks like it belongs. Like if there's ever an interior shot of KITT from from like Knight Rider or something, like this is what I think that would look like.
It is just bizarre to me though that looking at this, so like we were talking about a couple weeks ago, whatever, with the Escalade having the one continuous screen that goes literally like 2/3 of the way across the dash for all of this same stuff. That's the look that screen is going to have. Everything is going to be just in a spot because it's a touchscreen, right? So it has to go in a place if you want to, say, have your HVAC controls, if you want to have your light controls, if all of that is done on a touchscreen, it all has to be there all the time. And you can see by this 25, I mean, it's charming to me now because it's all analog. It's just a cacophony of nonsense.
That's the episode title.
There it is. Cacophony of nonsense.
But now picture that on a touchscreen, Tristan. You know, that's hellish.
Yes.
Man,
Anyways.
those vents on the top of the center stack look like they're way too high.
Oh yeah,
like that blocks your view. Holy cow! This is out of left field, but this is a cool one. I've never.
Yeah, I love it. I'm a fan.
That's
So,
really cool.
Sticking with the kind of out there, 80s concept cars, production cars, what have you. There's a Volkswagen concept car that is called the Volkswagen Orbit.
What?
Be-wee-oo.
And it has a very interesting design, but that I found, like, yeah, look at the interior. Like, it looks like a Star Trek spaceship from the 80s.
Oh, it's got like, look at the rev counter.
Yeah, it's got like a rev counter and a speedometer that are like
linear.
Fill in the block too. Like, at each block is its own little like rotating drum that fills in as it goes. And like the system status, like all your warning lights and everything, actually little arrows like point to parts of the car.
Okay, that has to come back. That has to come back. I demand that. Your
fuel is given in like actual numbers. And it has the best, most 80s thing I have ever seen. Something called an InfoVision processor.
Wow.
But that is because I also
that's like their version of a touchscreen,
right?
It's the InfoVision processor.
So that was my like the retro thing was like all these future technologies, and oh man, I was trying so hard to find like what was the InfoVision processor, and I just couldn't find anything helpful.
You're looking at it, baby.
Yeah, and it's so yeah. It is, all these concepts are wild, like, but this one seems like it made any sense. Like, it seemed like people were actually like this is actually used to help somebody, like not just look cool. Like, yeah, oh, you got an instrument light on. Okay, what part of the car do I look at? So
that I actually really like. I will say, I mean, interior is one thing. The exterior is horrendous, and of course, it's an Ital design concept.
Yep.
It's not as bad as the Ital design Orca concept. You should look that up. Speaking of Ital,
sorry, I just googled Ital design, and I'm just horrified by what I'm seeing.
Yeah, Ital design Orca.
Oh, Orca,
like the whale. Appalling.
Ugh.
I
mean,
steering wheel on that.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Look at Tristan. Look that up. The Orca interior.
Yeah, I know.
It's
got
like a calculator on the steering wheel.
Well, yeah, exactly. It definitely doesn't have an airbag.
Wow. Oh, that's bad.
Ugh. I don't want to look at this anymore.
Oh, that's terrible. Okay. So my next one is also going to be, we'll stick on this theme of out there. I'm going to go back even further than the 80s. I'm actually going to go back to the 60s for the interior of this car.
Ooh.
This is super rare, and guys, I am going to post an image in the Discord chat right now, so you guys can check this out as I'm talking about it. This is what is now a super rare sports car from the 60s. This is the Toyota 200 GT. This is actually, in the mid-60s, this was Toyota's first attempt at a sports car. Like, this was their corporate statement that, hey, we can do things besides the boring commuter car. And tops in the mid 60s, top speed of like 135 or 140, 160 horsepower engine. It wasn't bad, but I love the way this interior looks with the way the gauges are laid out. I love the wood paneling in here in contrast to the black and the gray around it. And I think the most interesting thing about this, they had, for the interior, they had a partnership with Yamaha.
Sure.
And it's not for what you think. They actually had a partnership with Yamaha Musical Instruments, and that wood is the same type of wood that would go on their grand pianos, on the Yamaha grand pianos.
I mean, it's a hell of a journey to get there, but... Huh. Okay.
I love this interior. This is
like
actually
the exterior. Wow, it's a really good looking car.
It's a good looking car.
Silly, but it's good.
This is actually closer, I think, Andrew, to that Spiker that you like so much.
You know what? That's actually it's a weird comparison, but you're right. There's definitely elements of that, like a classic look, for lack of a better term. Like, it's a little bit flat faced, and the dials are sort of like independent, surrounded by their own space, as opposed to something new like an Aventador that's all incorporated into one area.
Mm-hmm.
So
which I think is kind of a common theme for the 60s, though.
Yeah.
Each gauge was all its own individual thing. But this was like a last minute pickup. I just found out about this thing last night, I think. And another side note, this was one of the early Bond cars. It was in You Only Live Twice. As a convertible. And they didn't make
there's a convertible one?
No. They only made coupes, but Sean Connery was 6'2" and wouldn't fit in the coupe, so Toyota cut the roof off of one so they could use it for the movie as a convertible.
Oh, that's interesting. Huh.
Did it just look like a convertible? Or it was actually a convertible? Did they just cut the roof off?
That's what I was just going to ask.
I'm Googling it right now.
My bet is that they didn't make it a full convertible, because if he didn't fit in the coupe, he couldn't put the roof up anyway.
I will send you this image.
It's just Sean Connery being taller than a car as he's sitting in it.
Well, the picture I sent you, which is funny, is it looks the 200 GT looks very much like the interior of an E-Type at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Which the outside looks like an E-Type also. And it's funny that you talk about people being too tall for it. My uncle's E-Type, it's a good thing it's a convertible, because my dad doesn't fit in it. His forehead sticks over the top of the windshield.
And you can never, ever, ever drive a car that you are taller than when you're sitting in it.
Yes.
Because you will be killed by a stone.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
but also, you look like an asshole.
I'm at extreme risk for Miatas.
Yeah, Miatas, definitely.
Miata-related stone death.
Yeah. So I put a picture up of what the movie car actually looks like, guys. So I think they actually made it look quite nice.
They did make it look nice. I will bet anything you like that is not a real convertible.
Right, exactly. That's the big thing.
Looks good, though.
Yeah. So that was my kind of out there pick.
I have to go with the one that I found. That is actually not just one I found. It's an entire line that I found that has just the most friendliest, pleasing place I want to be right now and in all previous times. The other day I was on Twitter at like a weird time when I'm normally not, and I saw a press release from Peugeot, who was announcing some car, doesn't matter. What caught my eye was the interior. I was like, oh my God, that looks really nice. That looks really friendly. It looks really happy. And they essentially are doing like the cut and paste method for every single car they have is the exact same interior, color variations, maybe a minor like shifter placement type thing. So the Peugeot 5008 SUV has like this incredibly friendly look to it, and everything is in a cast of bronze and wood. So the steering wheel is quite large, which I think is kind of different than what a lot of people are doing right now. And the speedo and tack are like right in front of you, set above it in a screen, but noticeably smaller than like every other car on the market right now. It's kind of like it almost seems like a drive focus thing. You know what I mean? Like, yes, here's your data. It's right in front of you, right where you expect it to be. But the steering wheel is the feature of this center of the whole cockpit area. It just looks really, really good to me. And I think the whole fit in the 5008, it just looks fantastic. I want to be there right now.
I would say you are absolutely correct with 98% of this interior.
Precise science.
The one thing I disagree on, and it's not just a Peugeot thing, it is any manufacturer who does this, the screen above the center stack.
Yeah.
Just like you
the fact
jammed
that
an
it's just,
iPad into the dashboard.
Yeah, they just with an iPad there, and it's just poking out into the airspace. Like, I hate that. And it's not just a Peugeot thing, it's everyone who does that. Like, you need to find a better way to incorporate that into the top of your center stack. Somehow, some way. You can't just go doink and stick it there and call it good.
But they did.
But they did.
But
everything else, the wheel looks awesome. The speedo and the tack look great. I love the wood paneling and that chrome. There's like buttons underneath those center vents, and then that chrome like wraps around the shift lever.
Oh yeah,
I think
it just looks fantastic.
The lights on the cup holders.
Well, classy.
Super I love it. Except for that stupid screen.
That's just a thing. Like you are definitely right about that, but it doesn't even bother me simply because that's just the thing now. That's.
Yeah, I guess that's not going to change. So we just I just have to learn to deal with it. But
you are right about it.
That's a really good pick.
So I like how this is working out. How we have
the flow is good.
Yeah, because my last and final. I hope we don't go to 4 because I'm out. Is the Audi A8, the brand new one, the 2020? Because always in my mind, one of the nicest places I have ever been was behind the wheel of either of my A4s. The seats are insanely comfortable. The gauges fit exactly right up under the binnacle of the top of the binnacle matched up with the top of the wheel, and no matter where you sit, they figured it out where wherever you sit and you hold the wheel, the gauges are always right in line. Just little details like that.
And it's got the little speakers that ring.
Right.
Yep.
and this one has the very impressive digital dashboard that Audi uses. So it's just like can go from either big gauges and a little information display in the center to little gauges, and your navigation and stuff are like main screen right in the center, where a lot of people have navigation like off in the center stack or something like that, or a weird HUD thing that I've never been a fan of. It doesn't really work well during the day. That kind of thing. But this is a very dynamic probably insanely expensive to replace, screen built into the dashboard, and it has the best interior lighting I have seen in a car in a long time.
Best interior lighting.
Yeah, just like during the day you don't see it. Let me post a picture for you. During the day you don't see it, but at night it highlights all the edges, and you can turn it up and down. Like, obviously this is at maximum brightness for picture taking reasons.
Is that purple?
It's customizable.
Oh,
yeah.
Classy bitch.
So there's a picture of one that they have it red that I found too. So like you can customize the color of those very cool lights. It has the classic Audi ergonomics where everything is right where it needs to be. It's very driver focused with that digital display where the passenger doesn't need to know where we're going. I'm driving, and put it right in front of me. Don't put it in the center stack. And yeah, like the one thing I wish we had stolen the seats out of my dad's A6 and made office chairs out of them, because
that would have been
good
great.
Lord, they were just the most comfortable things in the world. So that's my I want to be there right now. I want to be driving an A8 at night right now.
But are you at all concerned about the fact that this car has a Nintendo DS in it?
What do you mean?
It's just like that's all I can see with the two screens there. Is Nintendo DS. The bottom one is, you do your manipulation. The top one is where you play WarioWare.
No, I'm not concerned about that whatsoever.
Fine, whatever. I'd play WarioWare there.
I see your point.
Then do it. That's a bonus.
Then do it. That's all it reminds me of.
Do it.
That's all that reminds me of.
I see your point, Andrew. That is, I guess, weird that you got two screens on the center stack.
But think of it as either you could do that, or you could do like the ginormous, egregious piece of glass slab down the center.
Obviously, this is much preferable to that.
But
yeah.
I mean, I guess pick your poison.
I'd rather they just had some be more buttons.
Well,
I don't think cars need more screens. But if you're going to do it all on screens, having two at appropriate angles where they kind of follow the curve of the dash,
yes,
better.
Definitely true. You are right about that.
Totally. That's a great pick. So my last pick is also going to be in the Audi family, and Tristan already alluded to it. And I don't know whether the fact that I just thought this entire car was so cool back when we were kids, and like it could do no wrong, interior, exterior, whatever. But the interior of your dad's A6 was awesome to me. And I think as a kid, the main thing that struck me was the red digital lighting. That was not something, I came from a GM family. They don't do that kind of stuff. So whenever Tristan's dad was picking us up to take us places and we got to ride in that A6, that was just absolute heaven. Everything about that car was cool, but the interior definitely not lacking.
The funny
there it is.
The picture I found is missing the radio head unit, and much like my dad's car, the dashboard cup holder. Those things fell out immediately, as far as I could tell.
That was a great concept. But people would just put a giant soda in and then it would break off.
Snap off.
Yeah.
Or you put a giant soda up there once.
Right.
And then you turned a corner and you never did it again.
Exactly.
Which was this car, Tristan?
2000.
I'll look that up again for the listeners here, but I absolutely loved the look of that interior.
It is good, and there is something very pleasing about that orange. That was something I was thinking about the other day. There's some song I was listening to. I don't remember which one is offhand. Something about driving at night, glowing green, and I was like, "There's not a kid born today that understands the color of gauges in like everyone's car when we were
green.
Kids."
Yeah,
it was green.
Why was it green? No one knows why it's green. It just was green. And then
at night, it's easiest on the eyes.
No,
That is
red is
not true. It's like the hardest on the eyes.
blue.
Oh, wait.
Blue is the hardest, but red, like battleships, battle lights at night, red.
Helicopters.
Yep, interior lighting on planes and ships and tanks at night,
Pilots.
red.
Mhm.
Yeah, like, and what's worse is now the hardest on your eyes at night, white and blue, which is what all cars are now.
Every car is white and blue. It got worse. I remember those Golfs that no one likes, Tristan. Those were the first car I ever saw in blue. Like
Yes,
bright blue, which actually looked really cool, but were impossible to drive.
That Volks, that super blue Volkswagen blue, and I escaped that only because the only one that I had from that vintage was just a secret A4, and they didn't even bother to change the lighting. It was all still red. Yeah, they just slapped a different nose on it and a different rear fascia and said go. Different badge on the steering wheel. Yeah.
That's a great pick, Nick. I really do like the orange. BMWs of this time also had a similar color, I think.
They had a similar color, and they had an interesting, when you talk about driver focus setup, a lot of them tipped the center console towards the driver.
Yes.
So it had this kind of offset looking at you, and I did like that. I drove my friend's 3 Series when I was in high school. That was from the same time as my dad's, like a 6 or 7 year old 3 Series from that time period, and it had the center was pointed towards me, and I was like, ooh, I don't have to it's just right there. Just kind of reach off the steering wheel, and there it is. And I considered putting one of those in, but I just couldn't justify it compared to the Audi interior that I know I love.
Right.
So
yeah. No. Good picks. I think I really expected that to be common theme. Like we'd all come in with every car being an Italian supercar, but I don't know. I don't know if there's any conclusions to be drawn. It's just that you can make a good interior any number of ways. It doesn't have to be cool, although that really helps. It doesn't have to be comfy, although that really helps. And it doesn't have to have a unique feature, whether it's 80 style gauges or orange or whatever. I think there's just a million ways to do it, but it has to be unique.
I think one thing for me is the layout has to be, and obviously as you drive a car, more and more you learn the interior and learn where everything is, but it has to be intuitive as far as where things are. You shouldn't, even if it's your first time sitting in it, you shouldn't have to spend that much time looking for a certain button or knob. It should be where...
Yeah, you may have to look for it, but it's not an exhaustive search that then causes you to rear end somebody.
Right, and you can obviously learn a car, but I can, if I hop in, I always freak out for a minute, when I hop in, from driving my car to when I'm driving Claire's, and even the thumb controls on the steering wheel are on the opposite sides. So it's it's just not where I expect it to be. I think I'm changing the volume and the brights turn on, what the fuck?
Yeah, and as much as I keep buying them and keep referring people to buy them, the Subaru windshield wiper stick is upside down.
Mm-hmm.
You want go faster? Push down. Why? The up is more, down is less.
Oh God, which way does mine go?
Mine catches me.
Okay, all right. So there's 2 on mine. There's the interval, which is on a toggle in the center that goes up and down, and the stick itself, down is faster. On the toggle, up is faster.
Yeah, mine's the same way.
Yeah,
and it's so it makes sense on the little toggle, but the stock is upside down. There's a reason we use the phrase "turn it up." Up is more.
Turn it up. Actually, that's something that really threw me off about the Elantra. So I went from having an up and down button, sort of on an old MP3 player, non-iPod MP3 player, for changing track. And in the Veloster, up was next track, down was previous or beginning of the song. Mm-hmm. So in the Elantra, it's a switch, a pushable switch button. Down is next song, up is previous. That still throws me off. It may throw me off forever. But I think in that case, down is more correct.
Because you're moving through a playlist downwards.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. It's actually interesting we're talking about this. Today on Twitter, I retweeted a video from Tom Ford of Top Gear magazine, where he's attempting to do a menial task on the screen, the interactive screen, in what I think is a Seat. It's not entirely clear. I'm pretty sure it's the no wait, what they Seat like broke off their performance division. Whatever.
Yeah, it's like they just call it Leon
Cupra,
now.
Cupra.
Yeah, Cupra. Yeah,
it's Cupra. I think what he's trying to do is turn off the AC. But whoever designed this UI is a fucking asshole. And they made it so this screen now has everything on it. Your HVAC controls, your CarPlay integration, your electric seats, your everything is on this one screen. And they did such an appallingly bad job that it's 50 seconds for him to find the right screen that he's looking for. This is such a problem.
Well, even then, once he found it, I saw that video you're talking about.
Yeah.
Once he did it, it was so unresponsive and hit and miss that he's like, am I doing this wrong? Like, he pushed the button and, like, nothing happens.
Exactly.
It's weird.
The screen singularity will kill us all. And I just don't know what's driving the push to put everything on one screen. I think it's Tesla. And I think that it's dumb because it was dumb when they did it, and it's dumb now. They just put a Vizio in the middle of their dash, and because here's the problem: no one drives a Tesla. Sorry, buddy, I get it. You're the gimmick guy who drove it 1,000,000 miles in 3 days. Fantastic, have a ball. You don't actually drive that car. I guarantee you have another car, and so that means that everything that they do, the creepy butthole thing, the fart Easter egg. The whatever else, it's all window dressing. It's all bullshit. It's not a real car designed to be used day to day because it doesn't function in a day to day world. Don't copy them. Stop doing this. It's a horrible idea.
Well, I agree with that, Andrew, but I think we can take it back a step further. Not just bringing everything to one screen, but not to sound like the total get off my lawn guy, but like, who decided screens were a great idea in the first place? Like, if you think about it, the motion in the car is the same. You're still reaching over and pressing.
Yes.
So, who said, what's a problem? Pressing a button instead of touching a screen.
Well, here's the problem. So, and I have an answer for that. Is that we've discovered not only the desire, but the benefit of things like CarPlay, where you are bringing your content to the car, your navigation, not built-in navigation that's always out of date and doesn't have traffic. You are bringing your music and everything else to the car, and that's going to require a screen. And because phone screens are small, when you think about using a phone or using like the big built-in LCD panel on my car, that's a much better experience using it on my car than using my phone on a vent mount, because you end up fiddling trying to hit that button as the vent is bopping up and down, and like having that tied into the car is a benefit. And even before that, if you wanted things like GPS, which I think, although everybody should learn how to use a map, because maybe someday your phone will break, have a map in your car and know how to use it from an emergency standpoint, at least.
That's fair.
But GPS is better. Like when works, like when it's on, GPS is better. You have to have a screen for that. And if you're going to make those things as large and as useful as they can be, then you're going to take up a lot of that center stack real estate. And once you do that, you're going to be missing space for ancillary things like that. This is where I think, as much as I do fear the day that maybe that screen breaks on my car because it's big, is I think my car has it exactly as far as I want to go. It's a big screen that makes CarPlay wonderful. It makes all of the access to my car's various features accessible. So turning on all of my safety stuff, turning it on and off, setting the preferences for my car. Like, I set those preferences on my Audi in the DID that was this big, and you had to skip through 6 menus to get to a setting because there wasn't a big screen that if you tap settings, they could do a 4x9 grid of settings. So you have cars with more features. You have cars beginning to utilize, this term is cliche and I hate it, but rich content where it's not just where it's not just like a GPS telling you turn right here. There's audio content, there's visual content, there's interactive stuff, like you can report accidents, and it's way easier to do that on those big screens. And you miss out on those features without a large enough screen. And if you then take features that are not used all the time and are not mission critical to the car and put them in that screen, that's what I'm comfortable with. Like, my HVAC at a very basic level has hard buttons accessible on the dashboard. Like my seat heaters, no. You have to go into the screens for that. And yeah, if someday my screen gets broken and I can't use my seat heater, I'm going to be bummed. But if my screen breaks on my Tesla and I can't turn it on, or I can't back up,
right?
Like, that's a very different level of stuff. And I think that it's, you can put a lot in there to make your cars feature rich. And if it breaks, the car isn't hobbled. You can still use it like a car from the early 2000s. And, you just lose out on all those features that make it a new, well-appointed, if not expensive, slightly by historical standards, luxurious car. And those screens allow that to happen. And you got to strike a middle ground, though. And that's what people just aren't.
But that's exactly the nature of my complaint. I think might be Nick's too. But any vehicle that puts a screen, and I don't even know what the size is. I'll bet you if you did a deep dive into this, you would find at which point manufacturers, probably as dictated by the hardware manufacturers, become comfortable adding other features onto big screens. Tristan, just in my brief research, looking up that BMW CarPlay thing, what I discovered is that, so much the hardware manufacturers dictate so much of this.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there's a point where the screen, whether it's 10 inches, 18 inches, who knows what it is, comes with enough processing power to start to run these ancillary systems where they don't. In my car, it's just a little 8-inch screen. It just doesn't have the power. It's essentially Raspberry Pi behind there. But the feature creep happens so fast that just adding screen real estate, like in your car, Tristan, which isn't massive. It's big, but it's not massive. By somewhere, some UI guy goes, oh, it'll be a great idea to put XYZ feature in an inaccessible place. And even if it is something like seat heaters, which you may use here 6 months out of the year,
something like that, maybe
9 months out of the year, maybe even in the most generous circumstance, even putting that is so simply handled by a button in any one of 30 places in the cabin, that's feature creep. And so that means they're already thinking about it. And next time it is going to be something else. And then almost instantly you're at the point where you're flipping through a tri-sectional screen to try to find the stupid heat adjustment. And it's just so instant because they can't stop themselves. These UI people are way overpaid and way underproductive.
I think, yeah, and there are success stories and not, and that's why, like mine, I am cold, want to make myself warm. Let me tap my HVAC controls, and that's where my seat heater is.
Right.
Like, exactly.
I can turn up my seat heater and turn up the car temperature without changing where my hand is on the screen. I tap it, doop doop, done. Like, that makes sense. It's not in some hidden, inaccessible place. Mm-hmm. It's right where it belongs. It makes sense. if it's going to be on a screen. Now, you can argue it doesn't have to be on a screen, which it doesn't have to be on a screen. But if you're going to put it on a screen, there are bad versions of putting it on a screen and really quite useful versions of putting it on a screen. And I think that's what makes a good cockpit or not. And
I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's like the Audi thing. Like the buttons are right where they need to be. Just because it's buttons doesn't mean it's good. Buttons can buttons can be in the wrong ass place.
Right.
Very true.
And
that's what I was saying about the intuitive thing. Like, it's got to be where you would naturally expect them to be.
Right. And that's, I think, screens are subject to the same laws of usefulness. If you have a screen and it is responsive time-wise and things are put in a digitally ergonomic place where that makes sense for those things to go and they're easily accessible while driving, that means the screen can be good. It doesn't automatically mean they're bad. They can be good. I can tell you that the one before this one was not good. So that's how I know. This one is very good, and I like using it. So
that's fair. I mean, we can talk about this all we want. The reality is, get ready for buttons to come back, you stupid fucks.
Yeah. Yep. I got the last Outback with a screen on it. Let's face it.
They've been planning mono screens that are the entire, like a T shape that go all the way across the dash and all the way down the center console. Fuck you. No chips for you. You get buttons.
It's going to be 2 years.
Minimum. It's going to be 2 years minimum.
Yeah.
That's... Yep. I did more... I just slowly keep doing more and more research into this. Actually, I have some thoughts about our need to do a further deep dive episode into this, and I have some plans for that. But yeah, man, it's going to be 2 years before car chips are coming back. Every state that's telling you they're going to ban internal combustion cars with any date on the end, they're not. I have news, and it's that they will not. It's no longer feasible. It's no longer even hypothetically possible. It's not probable. It cannot be done. The infrastructure cannot be created.
Cars with complicated electronics in them are going to be, like the last of the V8 Interceptors from Mad Max. Like they're going to be mythical.
Exactly. Anyways.
Yep. Absolutely. So not to worry if you're sitting on that Hellcat.
Exactly.
You'll be fine for quite a long time. Anything else we want to add to this one, or should we get the people out of here?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Tristan, you think we're good?
We're good.
Sweet. All right, guys, before we get out of here, first thing we want to do is make sure that you guys out there know how to get a hold of us if you feel so inclined. We're on all the social media channels. You can find us on Facebook by going and searching Check Engine Podcast. Andrew mentioned before he was patrolling the Twitterverse for us. Andrew, where can they find us on Twitter?
Yeah, Check Engine Pod. And basically now I just tweet about silicon fab processes. So
it's now a chip foundry Twitter.
Exactly.
So. Disguised as a car podcast.
That's right.
Surprise.
And Taco Bell sauce.
Verde.
Sauce. Anyway, Tristan, where can they find us on Instagram?
Also by looking for @CheckEnginePod.
So, folks, be sure to like, follow, share, posts, DM, reach out how and when you can. You can ask us questions to answer on one of our shows. You can let us know what part of our show and our structure you like or you dislike. You can give us ideas for topics to discuss, much like this best interior episode here. Thank you in advance for that. And thank you for sticking with us today. We don't want you just to listen. We just told you how you can get a hold of us to interact. And we also want you to look on your favorite streaming platform for the review area on your page or your screen and leave us a review, preferably a good one. And or you can hit that subscribe button. It's free and you'll get notified of anything new we put out, hopefully from our new studio soon. If you're really into what we're doing and would like to support us monetarily so we can upgrade our studio, you have two options for that. You can go to patreon.com/check engine podcast, or you can hit the support button on our homepage at anchor.fm/check engine podcast. Every cent donated, or every cent pledged, I should say, is put towards making this a better experience for you, the listener, and we don't get anything out of it personally. So thank you in advance for that. Any special shout outs before we get out of here?
I have one that I should have done last week, but I had to thank my dad last week. So about a week ago, Shock G of Digital Underground died. I think it was at end of April anyway. And I guess we're just getting up to that age, right, where the artists that we liked when we were kids start passing away, although he's only 57, so he's pretty young. Obviously it's not like I was, out in the streets when the Humpty Dance came out. That was before we were born, but Digital Underground was such an important formative group for my personal sense of music. So, well, I guess, all right. So Sex Packets, the first album came out in 1990.
$1.03.
That's right. Man, so there's something about Digital Underground that really informed what I value in music, which is high quality music where, it's like very sound, it's very well made, it's not a joke, with lyrics that are also well crafted and clever and lyrically dense, for lack of a better term. Everything's serious, everything is very high value, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it's not self-serious. It's not dream theater. It's not six dudes sitting there having practiced the same thing 70 billion times until it's like inch perfect. I don't care about that. It was fun. It was exciting. It was everything. It was so interesting to me. The art that they used, the sounds that they used, the references to, video games and Parliament Funkadelic, and it's just such a loss, because that group, Digital Underground and Shock G, were so central to what established my taste in music. And Tristan, you'll remember when LMFAO came out when we were in college.
Yes.
Like, I instantly recognized everything they were doing. I'm like, oh shit, this is Digital Underground.
Yep.
The colors, the prints,
you
the
actually
dances.
Said this to me.
Yeah, the party music. They were the same way. They made quality music with quality lyrics, but it wasn't self-serious. And I was like, oh shit, I know exactly what this is. And a lot of the bands and the groups that I like do the same thing, whether it's Tyler, the Creator, or Bare Naked Ladies. All these bands I like, they do the same thing. Everything's done really well. They take it very seriously, but they don't take themselves seriously. And I don't know. I'm sad about it, because it's not like Shock G made music regularly, but it was just nice to know that he was still on the scene. You know what I mean? His influence is just everywhere. And yeah, so rest well, Shock G.
Rest easy. Tristan?
I have one that I'm going to have to wait for next week.
Whoa.
So I was told late in the game. So I gotta punt to one of my non-serious ones, which I guess is fine after Andrew's more serious one. I'm gonna thank peanut butter stuffed pretzels.
Peanut butter stuffed pretzels.
Yeah, we can shake it around and get the little tick of the peanut butter in there.
Because they are, as far as I can tell, the perfect snack. They are salty. They are also sweet because of the peanut butter. They're crunchy. And they have just enough protein in them to justify eating way too many, because you're like, this will stick with me. It's a meal. So peanut butter stuffed pretzels. This one's for you.
Whatever gets you through the day, man. I am going to end with, I want to thank one of our followers on social. So Andrew welcomed new listeners earlier. I want to thank just do a shout out for one of our followers, specifically on Facebook, who he wasn't in on the ground floor, I would say. I don't remember seeing a lot of interaction with him like super early on, but I'll go ahead and say first floor, maybe second. But he's been with us a while, and literally everything that we put out on social, he has interacted with in some way or another for, I want to say, at least the last 5 or 6 months.
Wow.
Nice. So I don't know too much about him, but Evan DM, thanks so much for interacting with us as much as you do. Other listeners out there, please be more like Evan DM.
Yeah. Come on.
And we want to hear and interact with more of you. So thanks to Evan for all the support that he's been giving us recently. And thank you, listeners everywhere, for your continued support. We love hearing from you. We love recording this for you, and we can't wait to speak to you again. Until we do, take care.